today. We are at Rifflandia. We are with Mike from Suicidal Tendencies, a legend. It's been 40 years since your debut. What does that feel like to be able to still like play these concerts, have people on the stage? If you haven't seen the photos, a bunch of people on stage. What does that feel like?
Well, you know, when I was 4 years old and started this, that's funny.
4 years old?
I was 6.5. My parents said no. I had to wait till I did at least kindergarten. No, I think when we started off, what we did wasn't considered music. And I always tell the story of one of my best friends. When we were doing a record, they say, you know, and I come from a place where people used to be honest or try to be honest,
right.
And they get in your face when you go like, oh, this shit's fucked up, and it's like, no, you're fucked up. But he's like, Mike, man, you know, listen to the radio. You could do that. And I go, I hear the radio and I turn that shit off. I don't like it.
Right.
And he go, but you know what you're doing isn't music. People aren't going to like it. It's not an audience. I go, I don't care what people like.
Right.
It's like I'm more concerned about what I like, not in a selfish way, but it's more like I got to live with myself, not other people, you know?
Right.
And to be in a situation which is kind of full circle in here, like I started to say before, was to ask people like how many times the first time you seen it, and you hear this, yeah, a lot of people, and sometimes people just raise it, you know, and then I said, how many of you seen this before? And there's scattered.
Right.
And then at the end, and I appreciate honesty, at the end where you see people on a stage having fun when they didn't know they were gonna have fun,
right.
and having different emotions than they expected. It's a great feeling, you know, because you're just going side to side and to change things up. And that's what my dad always said, you know, you need to switch things up, be different, don't fit in, stand out. You know?
Still reaching out to people that may have not have heard of Suicidal Tendencies and stuff like that.
And then with Suicidal is one of those ones where people they're like, oh yeah, I've seen that, and that's not me, you know, and they haven't really heard the music, they haven't had an association or a connection, so to speak, and so this able to make a connection and break it down, and so I think that's a great opportunity, you know.
Yeah, and how does it feel to play, you know, when you wrote those songs on that debut album? I think it's the 40th anniversary of that album, right? How does it feel to play those songs now as a much older man, not much older, but like as 40 years older at least? How does it, like, do the songs change in that lifetime? Do they have a different meaning to you?
I think so. I mean, we just actually last week we were opened up for Metallica at the football stadium in Arizona. And Robert came out, who's in Metallica, he used to be in Suicidal, and we played I Saw Your Mommy, which is one of the songs on the first record, and in a football stadium, and Ty who's his son, who plays bass for us now for the last few years, together, and it's like, everything could be as good as you want it to be, as good as you try to. There will always be things you can't control. There's always going to be fucked up shit. As my dad said, there's never a good time for bad things to happen. It happens. My son over there, he was just going to he's born in Australia. He's going to the embassy. The car broke down on the side of the freeway. He goes, this is a terrible time to happen. It's never a good time. You're not always saying, fuck, my car blew up.
Oh, it's a great time.
You know what I mean?
It's a great time to break down.
But my dad would point it out when people would talk. He goes, oh, you're sick 5 days out of the year. You know, those it's the worst thing. But those 360 days you're healthy, you don't go, yeah, man, I got so much I want. Wow, let's do it, you know? And we have a mindset that I think it gets more so even nowadays. And with my kids, I try to get them away from it. People are trying to push them that you are not in control. The world is hard. You need help. You can't do it. You're not, and it's not a matter of being like egotistical or this or that, but I go, you know, these people are not going to be there when you need them, and who's going to be there? The people with the smile on the face say, I got a victim, you know, let me help you. That's the last thing. You got to help yourself and stuff, and so a lot of people get really upset with that. But if you don't believe in yourself, you're going to have a fucked up life. If you're not going to fight for yourself, you're going to have a fucked up life. You know, if you're going to follow a path what other people are doing, you're going to have a fucked up life. That's what my dad said, and I still believe it, you know? And people get mad when I say that, but it's the truth. And if you're getting mad at the truth, then you're mad at yourself.
So these things are kind of universal that you've been speaking about for 40 years.
I think it is universal and stuff, you know, and it was just now there was a guy that came up there and he goes, you know what, I've been very successful in my life, and he goes, I went through some really, really bad times, and he goes, I got to thank you because I wouldn't have done it without you because your words meant a lot to me. And I said, I'll tell you what my dad said. My dad said, I'll tell you everything you need to know when you're at your worst. But if you fuck up, I'm not taking the blame, and if you do good, I'm not taking the credit. Because ultimately you're there and you have the moment. And I tell my kids what I told my dad said. I go, you know, if you fuck up, call me up. I'm not worried about it. I'm gonna get you out of that trouble.
Right.
We'll deal with it later. But if you don't call me up and it gets worse, we're gonna have a problem. And that's what people are getting. They get in a situation, they go, oh, it's fucked up, and they make it worse. You can get out of it. It's not gonna be the end. But what we do is we just double down on stupid. Sometimes double down on weakness, and that's what society kind of breeds on and stuff.
Yeah.
Because you look at it and you see the people that are not in a place they want to be, how they live, and you see the people that are telling them that this is fucked up, this and that, and how they live, and there's a disconnect geographically. So where is that disconnect coming from? Either they're fucking full of shit, or they don't give a fuck about you, or both of them. Yeah. That's your three choices.
Well, that's a good point, especially in Victoria. I feel like that's a poignant response to that question, too, because there is a disconnect, and I could belabor that. But I do want to talk about the show that you just played, and at one point before one of your songs, you reference skating and skating culture. How much has skating culture just contributed to the lore of Suicidal Tendencies? I remember first hearing you on Tony Hawk's. I was like a pimply-faced 10-year-old, you know?
Well, I think that it's my brother was a pro skater, so skaters were actually the first people. The punks didn't like us because we didn't look punk, and we were metal. The metal people didn't like us because we were punk, and so we didn't fit. We're the Sesame. One of these things didn't belong here. But the skaters were the first people that got into us and stuff, and then all the different action sports people and stuff like that. So it's a perfect soundtrack, I think for life and moving, figuratively and literally and stuff. And a lot of times I think people use music as an escape from their life, and we try to use music as a motivation to have the best life possible. That doesn't mean flying around or whatever, but music that you sit there, you listen to it, and like if you're in a place you don't want to be, you listen to it, it's like your vitamins, and you're like, let's do it. Okay, it may not be it, but now's the time, so let's do it. And so we try to music to be something that you feel, and besides hear, rather than just sing along and go baby, 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 and it has no meaning, Well, it's like, it's funny because I tell people that, and there's people like if you have on the phone and they have that music, you're like, you're fucking killing me, waiting on hold. You go to the elevators, it's music, and then a lot of music is like when I was young, 12, 13, when people started going to concerts, they're like, dude, it was so great, I was so wasted, I don't remember thing, and I'm like, what has that got to do? Yeah. And so I think it's to us, it's like a lot of times people like music because other people like it, so they can fit in, And music should be something you hear it feels it and moves you in a certain way, or has a feeling, and stuff. So that's what we try to do, is the fringe, or not the fringe, but just do what we like. And if people like it, fine. If they don't, they don't.
Yeah. Well, it's interesting. The idea of authenticity, I feel like, comes into play with what you're saying there. And what does authenticity mean? I
got a huge advantage though, because I obviously don't look like John Bon Jovi, and so and
give me a few years.
And thank God I don't. But I never was concerned about people liking me for the peripheral, whatever. I look in the mirror, I go, damn, my mom, love my mom. It was her 90th birthday yesterday.
Shout out to your mom.
Yeah, beautiful lady, sweet as can be. She said, looking at the baby pictures, how could such an ugly baby, and I was ugly, 10 pounds, 11 ounces, how can a ugly baby turn up and get even uglier? And I said, Mom, you're so sweet. And so I got an excuse, I was born that way. You know what I mean?
Right.
And a lot of babies, when they're ugly, they're like, oh, it's cute, he's got 4 noses, oh, it's cute, this and this. No, I was straight like, oh, damn.
Yeah.
Alfred Hitchcock, sumo wrestler, that was a straight ugly.
David Lynch.
But yeah, so it wasn't something that was important. We weren't trying to create a facade for people or whatever. It was all about the music and that, so.
Is that what authenticity essentially means to you then? Like doing it despite being called out?
Authenticity means when you go tonight, when you lay your head on your pillow and you play things back, you go, is this where I wanted to be? And I'm happy with what happened. And how can I be better? That's authenticity, you know what I mean? And stuff. So it's great that everybody, it seemed like a lot of people had a really good time.
Yeah.
It's great this and that, but authenticity goes, you know what? I did what I felt was the right thing to do, and I think people appreciate that and stuff. So that's authenticity.
Yeah. And just last question for you. Victoria has a really good punk scene, and there's a lot of good Victoria bands. Are you aware of the punk scene here? And how many times have you been to Victoria, actually?
This is the first time.
First time?
Yeah,
okay,
yeah,
welcome. Yeah, then you may know of the Dayglow abortions and No Means No.
I know the older ones, not any new ones or whatever.
No,
stuff, before COVID, I was spending a lot of time in Brazil, and then my wife's Australian, and so been there a lot. My kids were born there, most of them, and so it's like I've traveled a lot and that type of thing, and get into it. But yeah, it's really hard. And then the other thing is I realize is people like, oh, there's a band, this band. There's millions of bands. We're doing a tour in Australia, and we put it out. We didn't have it opening bands announced. It's sold out. And I go, there's more bands in Australia than there's people, I think, because everybody's fucking, hey mate, I love you, blah, blah, blah. Can we open over you? And I'm like, I don't have nothing to do with it. Fuck you. Yeah.
They're just making passports for people that don't exist. Well, thank you so much for your time. I appreciate it. Thank you for Rifflandia.
You did a job holding that. You didn't. My hands would have been shaking. I'll be like, you know what? Keep it up.
It's been Ryan Hook for Range Magazine. Thank you so much. Cheers.
Appreciate it.